Hi, my name is Charles. I am an organizer with the Pasadena Tenants Union and a volunteer for the Pasadena Rent Control campaign.
Tell us how you heard about our campaign.
I've really been involved with the campaign from the very beginning. There was actually a previous attempt to qualify rent control for the ballot in 2018. Myself and a number of, my fellow organizers at Caltech. At the time, as there is now, there's a lot of energy surrounding the tenant struggle in particular. What brings together, working class people from all kinds of different backgrounds, right, is that they are not in control of their own housing, that they're subject to the vagaries of the rental market, and that the only way to really overcome the severe degree of injustice and exploitation that accompanies this is to organize together. And like I said, this is how we all sort of collectively decided to get involved with the tenants movement, and what's brought us here today.
Some people argue that life gets better when one moves to a location you can afford. Do you have any opinion on this?
I think that when deployed as an argument in favor of gentrification and as an argument that minimizes the lived experience of people who have actually been displaced from their homes, sometimes their homes of many decades, where they've raised families, where they've built up communities, through local schools, through church groups, through whatever, right? When deployed as an argument for why those people should not resist displacement, right? Involuntary displacement because of increasing rents or because of eviction, I think it is extraordinarily callous and inhumane. It completely ignores the fact that these are people who have developed very deep roots within the community, who are part of the community, and who are being wrenched away from it, alienated from it, being forced to take on the expense of, usually many thousands of dollars in relocation costs, to move somewhere that is potentially going to be tens of miles away, if not farther, right, from their work, from their friends, from the whole community that they've built up. And to present this as though it's just like a natural fact of life and not something that's been engineered by the system that the elites have built, right? The capitalist class has built. And that's something that we should just passively accept or see the bright side of, right? That I think, it's just not an argument to be engaged with seriously. It completely ignores the devastating human cost that forced displacement has, both at an individual level and on the mass scale that we're seeing now because of how overheated the rental market is and how there are just so few controls on it.
What advice would you give to others who want to get involved? What can they do?
Well, when it comes to the rent control campaign specifically, I would certainly encourage anyone looking to get involved to first take a look at our website, pasadenaforrentcontrol.org. There are options there, to donate if you have the means, to volunteer, whether for phone banking, text banking, door knocking, and we certainly have a pressing need in all of them because we are facing up against one of the best resource and most deep-pocketed lobbies that's out there as an opponent, namely the real estate industry. We know that they're going to inevitably heavily outspend us. They're going to try to blanket the airwaves with their lies, with their misrepresentations, with all of the dirty tactics at their disposal to confuse people about what is a very straightforward and honestly quite modest, though still transformative measure, right? That whose sole purpose is to level the playing field a little bit in terms of the power between the large majority of Pasadenans who are tenants, 62% of households, and a tiny minority that exerts so much undue power over the rest of us by virtue of the fact that they own our homes as private property and as speculative assets, and by and large do not think of homes as the actual shelter and the place for building full, complete lives that we as tenants do. Like many of us did, use that as a starting point for your involvement in grassroots movements, in the social struggles of our day. Don't let this be the only thing that you do. Help us get across the finish line, but once we win, we want you to stay in the struggle because there is so much more work left to be done.
What resources are there for tenants out there that are important? If they're in a bind, they're being threatened with eviction, exorbitant rents, what can they do?
If you're based in Pasadena, the first thing I would recommend is reach out to the Pasadena Tenants Union at our hotline, which you can find on our website, pasadenatenantsunion.org, or by email. When it comes to legal representation, I would want to point people to Stay Housed LA, which is essentially, an umbrella network of eviction defense law firms as well as community organizations, which is set up basically to connect tenants in crisis, whether because of harassment, eviction, larger rent increases, and so on, with legal representation. Right now, they are also very overburdened, but that still is the sort of central conduit that we have to connect people to legal representation, particularly in crisis situations, like if they're facing a 60-day notice to quit, or even worse, an actual unlawful detainer, which is, say, an eviction lawsuit. If you are in that last situation, I want to give a particular shout out to my colleagues and comrades who have helped build the Tenant Power Toolkit. This is a new online tool which in particular walks tenants through the process of answering an unlawful detainer, which is to say an eviction lawsuit, because the way that whole system is set up is very much geared against tenants. Tenants are required to basically fill out pages and pages of quite intimidating paperwork in unintelligible legalese, and they're given only 5 days to do so, and there's no right to counsel here. By default, tenants are not going to be able to do this with the assistance of a lawyer. And in fact, today, even with the expanded need that we have with so many eviction protections expiring, as I mentioned, precisely because of that, the law firms themselves are at or above capacity. And so this tool is super important because it really strips down and simplifies the process and makes it accessible to tenants. It is oriented specifically towards tenants and gives them all the tools at their disposal to prepare an answer to these lawsuits, to do so within the requisite time frame, and to make it really easy as well for them to actually file that answer by doing so electronically if they live in LA County. So I would definitely recommend, if you are in that crisis situation of actually facing an eviction lawsuit, of getting a summons and complaint from the court, right? Please do, 1, reach out to us at the Pasadena Tenants Union, and 2, definitely avail yourself of the Tenant Power Toolkit, because that is an invaluable resource. In terms of who is behind the Tenant Power Toolkit, I want to shout out specifically the Debt Collective, the LA Tenants Union, and ACE, the Alliance of Californians for Community Empowerment, who all sort of collaborated to bring this into being. And full disclosure, I am working now as an organizer for ACE and as a data manager for Stay Housed LA. So, I know where I speak when it comes to how useful and how valuable these tools are.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.